Díomh guys fátarás wig Éist Arís Marscanach and you got clip nua, and this will probably be a long enough episode because, well, especially the second clip is pretty long. The first clip kind of standard length and a small bit easier, more so standard Irish, kind of mixed dialects, younger people speaking, while the second one is going to be quite Ulster focused. Of course, it can be good to especially focus on the dialects and native speakers from Ulster, Connacht and Munster, even if the majority of stuff maybe you might see, or at least half the stuff you might see or hear in podcasts, TV shows, is going to be more so mixed dialects, or Irish is a kind of second language in terms of non-native speakers, and it's going to be maybe a bit easier to understand. It can be good sometimes to focus a good bit on the dialectical stuff because that's the hardest stuff. If you can understand that, you shouldn't have too many problems with more so, again, mixed dialects, people who've learned it at school, you know, people who speak Irish just to the same level as the native speakers have learned it at a really, really high level, but it's not kind of really dialectical, or they pronounce things a small bit clearer, and when you use, you know, let's say, for example, the Munster form of doing vis and vius, or the Connacht form of maybe dropping the G on the egg forms, things like that, it'll be more standardized essentially. So it can be good to do some of the harder stuff, and then the easier stuff becomes even easier. Okay, not that any of this is easy, so don't be put off by it. As always, the first clip we're going to listen to is from the podcast Gaeilge Nish by Sean O'Mweel Huron, and we're going to be listening to Sean a bit speak. He is from Limerick, and again, kind of a mix of dialects, but maybe a bit more Munster than anything else. And we're going to listen to Emily Vrone, the guest he had on that week. It's just kind of an introduction. He's basically saying here at the start, you know, would you mind kind of giving us a small bit of an introduction to yourself? That's not exactly what he says. He phrases it slightly differently, but I'll let you figure that out. One or two new words here, guys. I'm going to start giving these out beforehand to make it a bit easier. Vishtalat, you're going to hear very early on. That's would you mind? So on Mishtalat, do you mind? Vishtalat, would you mind? Faimecha is going to mean applied. That'll make sense when you hear what noun is beside. So applied for Faimecha. And then Ainia is just another way of saying Ain Dinna, anyone. Okay, so those are a few words which might be new. Probably the three trickiest words, the words that could throw people off the most in this one. They're all going to be in there, and they're going to be in there in this order. I'm going to play it once, guys. Listen to it as many times as you want and get as much of it down on pen and paper as you can. So the next voice you're going to hear is Sean O'Mweel Huron.
Stoke Emma that just piece it off with Hain. I guess Connors will Ahna Agwin Chéile.
Well, is stalt me to chuid na danga go fáimecha nó scolimní, Tá mé ima bhíon dearnach bhfuil láthair, agus tá aithna am ursa os ón na rang na Gaeilge, den is stádar ar an Gaeilge le chéile.
Sin rud, yeah, mise an duine cúna scúne. Nach le gira bheith caint le hinne. Agus I gcónaí ag teach ar mo ruthair, agus an clugad ceanganta ar mo bhála deirtar gofuil aithna ar cúpa daoine ar mar gheallar sin, agus níl clúdá leid agam céhiad.
Okay, we'll leave it there. So just about 36 seconds. So again, guys, you won't be able to, you know, especially if you're trying to write it down, you won't be able to write all of that down inside one go. So listen to it as many times as possible until you feel like you're not going to get any more out of it. This is a middling, challenging clip, you know, obviously based on the context because it's an introduction, it's a bit easier. But they speak fast enough, but then there's nothing extremely dialectical about the way either of them speak. It's fairly standard Irish. So a good kind of benchmark for where you might be. Right, let's start off.
Stocha Emma that.
Istocha, Emma, and the Istocha is kind of almost half cut out at the start, so don't worry too much about that. Istocha. So Istocha, if you look it up, will be kind of probably, but it as much so means it's kind of used in a personal way, even though we don't put a lum or anything or a may on it. It's kind of I guess, I reckon, I suppose. Okay? So Istocha Emma, Vishtalat. I guess, Emma, would you mind?
Stocha Emma Vishtalat.
And again, remember anything with those is verbs like is matlam, you know, you'd have on matlat, do you like, but watlat, would you like, okay? So when we're using the is verbs in the Mokaniluk or in the conditional, really we're not really conjugating them in the Mokaniluk, we're using the we're using the near, in the negative anything.